Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 3 Legend of the Dragon King Part 65 based on novel. So let's start. It only took moments from when the golden mark first appeared for Tang Wulin's entire body to be covered in a network of golden streaks. It gave him an air of resplendence. Once the golden lines appeared, his breathing calmed down. He seemed to be adapting to the scorching pain. The golden lines pulsed intermittently, spreading a peculiar energy which enveloped his body. It wasn't soul power, but something far more special. Wu Zhongkong narrowed his eyes at the sight. He used only his senses to silently investigate. His blood essence is so powerful. It was inconceivable for someone's blood to course so vigorously. Golden scales emerged on Tang Wulin's right arm, stopping just shy of turning into the dragon claw. In contrast with their usual appearance, however, the current scales were far more brilliant and jagged. A golden radiance shone through them in a dazzling display. Tang Wulin's frame trembled gently when the water began to bubble, seemingly boiling him alive. The golden pattern covering his body became more distinct as it began emitting a rumbling noise. Streams of golden air left through his nose and mouth, with each breath serving to further refine his body. His bloodline really is getting refined. Wu Zhongkong nodded to himself. He could now be certain this endeavor would prove beneficial for Tang Wulin and that he could bear it. Sun with rays. 3 days later. Zhongkong, why are you staying in a place like this? Why not pick a place closer to the academy? Xinyi frowned as she inspected his ordinary room. Wu Zhongkong calmly replied, "It's enough as long as I can rest here. What difference does it make if I stay somewhere else? Besides, I don't like how noisy it is near the academy." He had already contacted Xinyi before departing for Shrek City. The Sky Sea Alliance had a little more than 100 quotas for Shrek's entrance exam each time, and it was only after racking his brains and making many compromises that President Yushin had been able to acquire 4 of them. Naturally, these 4 quotas were for the outer court exam. Considering their standing in the alliance, the East Sea Academy had no way of procuring any of the prized inner court exam slots. Xinyi had been caught off guard by Wu Zhongkong's sudden call, but she rejoiced when she heard he wanted to bring his disciples to take the exam. Her joy sprung once from the news of his return, and twice at the thought of his promising disciples. They had left a deep impression on her 3 years earlier, during the Sky Sea Alliance tournament. Their captain had a keen awareness of the situation and was decisive enough to sacrifice himself for the sake of his teammate. In her eyes, Tang Wulin stood out among the others. Following closely, however, was Ji Yu. When Tang Wulin was gravely injured, she chose to give up some of her own life force to heal him. She had wanted to take Ji Yu for herself right then and there. Ji Yu's control over the elements was truly shocking. 3 years later, Wu Zhongkong was finally bringing those children to Shrek Academy. Xinyi looked forward to seeing how much they had matured under his guidance. The exams are tomorrow. Are your students ready? Xinyi changed the subject as she sat down in a chair. Wu Zhongkong's forehead wrinkled. I asked you to come because I have a favor to request of you. The others are ready, but I have one student who has entered deep meditation and still hasn't awakened. So, is there a way to delay the exam? Xinyi went silent, her brows drawn together as she considered. I'm afraid it's impossible. You know how strict the academy's rules are. Besides, we have so many applicants of which only 100 will pass, and there are many rounds of examination. We can't change the exam time just for your students. It wouldn't do to make them all wait for one person's sake. It's a tough situation. Which student are you talking about? Wu Zhongkong said, the captain, Tang Wulin. Xinyi's heart skipped at the sound of that name. She recalled the scene of him rushing forward in the face of a soul fusion skill, using his own body to shield his teammate. Deep meditation was a rare opportunity that brought many benefits for soul masters. If disturbed, a backlash would likely occur. Zhongkong, you know how hard it'd be. Virtually impossible. Don't you know how inflexible teachers are? Xinyi said helplessly. Wu Zhongkong nodded. All right then. I'll have my other students take the exam first. Present in the room together with Wu Zhongkong and Shen Yi were Ji Yu Yu, Xu Xiaoyan, and Xie Xie. Wu Zhongkong had already told them about Tang Wulin's state of deep meditation. Hearing that Tang Wulin couldn't take the exam, Xie Xie immediately said, "Teacher Wu, that's out of the question. Wulin has been looking forward to taking this exam for years, and this is our only chance. He would regret missing it for the rest of his life." Wu Zhongkong frowned. Even after 3 days of bathing in the medicinal water, Tang Wulin's bloodline refinement had yet to finish. Disturbing him was out of the question, so the most they could do was wait patiently. But time waited for no one. Xu Xiaoyan said, "Yeah. Teacher Wu, how can we accept Captain not participating? For Soul Masters, it was practically a once-in-a-lifetime chance to enter Shrek Academy. If Tang Wulin missed it, then regret would haunt him forever." Calm returned to Wu Zhongkong's expression. Shen Yi sighed and said, "There's no point in thinking about it any further. Nothing can be done. Unless he wakes up before the exam starts, he'll have to miss it. I'm sorry I can't help you." Having been silent the entire time, Ji Yu Yu suddenly walked to stand before Wu Zhongkong and Shen Yi. "Hello, Teacher Shen. May I ask if it's possible to take the exam as a substitute? Is there a way for me to renounce my exam qualification so Wulin can take the exam? He's stronger than I am, so he could surely pass the exam if I'm able to." Shen Yi was taken aback. This girl that she regarded so highly actually made such a daring proposition, leaving her unsure whether to laugh or cry. "Little girl, you're overthinking it. Just what kind of place do you think Shrek Academy is? If normal academies don't allow for substitutions, why would Shrek? It's true that you're strong and have a high chance of being admitted, perhaps even into the inner court, but you shouldn't be so naive." Ji Yu Yu shook her head. "If Wulin can't go, I won't go either. If he can't join Shrek, I also refuse to join." Her voice was steady, and her eyes blazed with resolve. Shen Yi was astonished that Ji Yu Yu possessed such deep devotion despite her young age. She had met many people like her in Shrek Academy. As long as they decided on something, they would never falter. In fact, Wu Zhongkong was also this type of person. Like teacher, like student. "Zhongkong, your students are excellent. You shouldn't let one person hold them back," Shen Yi said. Dead silence permeated the air as the clock ticked on. Seconds felt like years until Wu Zhongkong finally raised a hand to pat Ji Yu Yu's shoulder. "Take your mind off of this issue. Just go back and rest. I will handle it." Ji Yu Yu stared at him in shock. His words left no room for debate, they carried the same type of unwavering determination hers did. "Thank you, teacher." Ji Yu Yu left first. Xie Xie wanted to speak out but held his words back when Wu Zhongkong raised a hand. After leaving the room, uncertainty flickered in Xie Xie's eyes. Xu Xiaoyan said quietly, "What did you want to say just now?" A moment of silence later, Xie Xie asked, "Tell me, Xiaoyan, our friends or Shrek Academy, which do you consider more important?" Xu Xiaoyan laughed. "You don't need to ask me that. As far as I'm concerned, Captain is the most important. My chances of passing were low anyway." Xie Xie chuckled and hung an arm around her shoulder. "Comrades truly think alike. If Wulin can't take the exam, then I won't either." As the words left his lips, his heart seemed to be relieved of a great burden and his entire being relaxed. Sun with rays. Staring at the door, Wu Zhongkong's breathing grew rapid. "Let's go then." Shen Yi asked, "Where are we going?" Wu Zhongkong replied, "Back to the academy." A tremble ran down Shen Yi's spine. "You going back to the academy?" "You." Wu Zhongkong said indifferently, "The children all understand, so how could I not? If I can trade my dignity for their future, that's a small price to pay. I will go back with you and apologize." Sun with rays. The bathtub's water had long since become clear, leaving behind only a golden mist to shroud Tang Wulin. Shrek Academy, the #1 academy that was located in the #1 city of the continent, was a place that countless people yearned to enter. Shrek Academy's campus was vast, a small town unto itself. It actually used to be the original Shrek City until Spirit Aisdolor Hoyuhao, the Spirit Pagoda's founder, proposed an expansion. Only then did the city grow much larger. Every 3 years, Shrek Academy would recruit new students, signaling a grand occasion for Soul Masters. Merely qualifying for the entrance exam of Shrek Academy was a point of pride for many young Soul Masters. The continent even had a saying: each and every Soul Master that qualified to take Shrek's entrance exam and failed would still be scouted by advanced academies. This saying was grounded in truth. People who qualified to take this exam were the cream of the crop. Despite being the elite of the elite, only a fraction of the examinees were admitted to Shrek Academy's outer court. Shrek Academy only accepted 200 outer court disciples every 3 years. Among the 200, 50 were set aside for those who failed to pass the inner court exam. Only 50 people were allowed to take the inner court exam at a time. Passing the exam was obviously the desired outcome, but failing to do so still allowed entrance to the outer court, as well as the chance to enter the inner court in the future. This was the exact reason why President Long Huantian of the Sky Sea Academy treasured the 5 inner court quotas. It essentially guaranteed 5 students entrance to Shrek Academy. Those students would naturally be expelled if they didn't measure up to even the outer court standards. Shrek Academy's history had seen its fair share of such situations. Anyone who graduated from Shrek Academy's outer court would already be considered a person capable of standing at the summit of the continent. Great clans and organizations would spare no expense to invite such a person into their fold. The inner court, however, was a realm of prodigies. Graduates of the inner court rarely chose to leave Shrek Academy. Most would stay. In the world of academia, the inner court disciples of Shrek Academy were destined to become battle armor masters. This fact was undisputed. Every single battle armor master was an existence of strategic importance to the Federation. There were always a few students who chose to leave the inner court for some reason or another, of course. Any such student would instantly attract the attention of the world superpowers. Since today was the eve of Shrek Academy's entrance exams, every inn in the city was filled to the brim with hopeful examinees, their teachers, and the heads of their families. The city was overrun with people. Merchants seized this opportunity to turn a profit by selling old exam questions and rules. Some sold spirit items while others sold soul devices. These masses of people worked in tandem, benefiting from one another. The Shrek Academy entrance exam had 3 requirements. First, examinees had to be sent by a major city. Second, examinees could be no more than 15 years of age. Third, the soul power of an examinee had to be ranked 25 at the very least. These were the basic requirements, but the most important requirement of all had been decreed 20,000 years ago. Shrek Academy did not accept ordinary people. On the contrary, they only accepted monsters. As a result, Shrek Academy has championed the moniker of Monster Academy since ancient times. Wu Zhongkong slowly approached Shrek Academy's western gate. His wore a solemn expression, but something else seemed to be lurking in the depths of his eyes. Upon seeing Shrek Academy carved into a signboard hanging from the city-turned academy gates, he couldn't help but come to an abrupt stop. His heart stirred as he pursed his lips. Shenyi walked over to stand beside him. Go inside. Teacher has missed you all these years. You're both just too stubborn to make up. I was really happy when you agreed to come back, you know. Wu Zhongkong wordlessly lowered his head. He walked toward the gate, his pace brisk and faster than before. It was almost as if he were afraid of getting cold feet. 2 youths clad in dark green uniforms guarded the western gate of Shrek Academy, also known as Shrek Inner City. The 2 saluted in respect when they saw Shenyi. Senior sister. This is my friend, Shenyi said. Please grant him entry. As she spoke, she took out a hexagonal metal plate and handed it to them. One of the youths examined it for a moment, then nodded to Shenyi and stepped aside. Shenyi and Wu Zhongkong entered Shrek Inner City. I originally prepared this entry token for that female disciple of yours. I didn't think I'd end up using it for you. She hadn't expected Wu Zhongkong to return with her when she set out this morning. Wu Zhongkong remained silent, his mind was already wandering in a world of its own. Once they entered the inner city, it seemed as if they were in a completely different place. In contrast to the hustle and bustle of the outer city, here, silence reigned. Stores lined the sides of a wide street paved with black brick. The architecture of every store was ancient, and they were mostly made of wood. It was as if Wu Zhongkong and Shen Yi had been transported 10,000 years into the past. The architecture resembled that of Heaven-Do City, but the buildings weren't as closely concentrated. Vegetation grew through the gaps and alleys between the buildings of Heaven-Do City, instilling it with a sense of grace. All the stores were open, but few people wandered the streets. Wu Zhongkong quickened his pace, quickly heading into the city's core. Shen Yi walked at his side, her eyes glazed over as she reminisced about years ago when she would shadow him on a stroll through the inner city. However, that time had long since passed. Everything was different now. The sunny youth who always wore a brilliant smile had become a man as cold as heavenly frost that wore white robes and carried a blue sword. Shen Yi didn't know how many years had gone by since she had last seen Wu Zhongkong smile. When his beloved passed away, his smile froze. Since then, he spent years in isolation at East Sea City, refusing to return. Sometimes, Shen Yi felt as if Wu Zhongkong's spirit had already faded away and that he only continued living because of a promise to his beloved. A promise to preserve her name alongside his within his battle armor. Even after leaving Shrek Academy, Wu Zhongkong continued to demonstrate how outstanding he was. He was only 32 years old, yet he was a 7-ringed soul sage. He could now work on crafting 3-word battle armor. Shen Yi was convinced that, even if it was several times more difficult, he would still be able to accomplish it because of his unyielding will. When she met his disciples and saw how carefully he guided them, Shen Yi had rejoiced. Wu Zhongkong finally had something important in his life again. Along with his beloved, for more people had made their way into his heart. Wu Zhongkong had returned to the academy for the sake of his disciples. After passing through several streets and finding himself in a familiar area, Wu Zhongkong came to a sudden halt. Shen Yi bumped into his broad back, yelping in surprise. "Why did you stop so suddenly?" she protested as she rubbed her nose. Wu Zhongkong's cold eyes thawed a little as he remembered the junior sister that had always followed him around in the past. She always said the same exact thing. More than 10 years had passed in the blink of an eye. He was no longer the Wu Zhongkong from back then, and she was no longer the young lady with a sweet smile. They had grown up. They had matured. However, doing so came at a price, and he had definitely paid the most. "Where is teacher?" Wu Zhongkong asked. "Where is teacher?" Wu Zhongkong asked once more as he subconsciously tousled Shen Yi's hair. Tears began to pour out of Shen Yi's large, evergreen eyes. Dumbfounded, she threw herself into Wu Zhongkong's arms. "Senior brother," she said, choking back sobs. The pitiful sound of her weeping attracted curious glances of passers-by. Shen Yi's white hair was extremely easy to recognize even without taking her fame within the academy into account. "Isn't that the white-haired witch, senior sister Shen Yi? What is going on with her? She never smiles and all the juniors are afraid of her. What's she doing? Who is that man? He's so handsome. Whoa. He seems sort of familiar. Who is he?" As a stream of chatter reached Wu Zhongkong's ears, he patted Shen Yi on the back and said, "Let's go." Shen Yi raised her head sheepishly, her eyes still full to the brim with tears. "You're still my senior brother, right?" Wu Zhongkong forced himself to form a bitter smile. "That isn't up to me." "Let's go," he said as he dragged her by the arm, taking large strides toward the inner city's core. "Teacher is in the inner court," Shen Yi said softly as she wiped away her tears. "Inner court?" Wu Zhongkong began to shake at the words. These words used to be an important part of his life. He had worked tirelessly for them, but as a result, he had also. Forcefully taking a deep breath, Wu Zhongkong abruptly released Shen Yi's hand and sprinted madly down the street. He rapidly accelerated toward the eastern part of the inner city, chilling in his wake because of his exertion. Shen Yi hastened to catch up to him, dashing forth in pursuit. Soon enough, A building surrounded by a tall, mossy green wall came into view. The wall prevented anyone from seeing what lay beyond it and converged on a lavish archway. At the top of the archway, the words, "Inner Court," were visible on a sign that hung from it. There were no guards manning the gate to the inner court. In spite of this, Wu Zhangkong's swift approach came to a sudden stop once he saw the sign that read, "Inner Court." It was there that every fiber of his being froze. It was as if those words possessed an infinite magical power. This was, without a doubt, the legendary Inner Court of Shrek Academy. This was the place that enjoyed continent-wide fame, one which countless soul masters yearned to enter. This was the place that struck fear into the Federation. Lush greenery covered all of the inner court. Only geniuses privileged enough to enter it would know that it resembled a park. Guards were not needed here. The words on the sign were enough of a deterrent. Senior brother. Xinyi stopped by Wu Zhangkong's side, having finally caught up to him. Don't call me that. I'm no longer qualified to be your senior brother. If teacher hears you, you'll be punished. Wu Zhongkong dropped to his knees as he spoke. Like jade pillars and mountains of gold crashing to the ground, the normally arrogant and stern white-robed man with the blue sword had suddenly kneeled before the inner court sign. Xinyi's heart trembled, but she did not comment on what just happened. Instead, she simply said, "Wait here, senior brother. I'll go get teacher." She sucked in a deep breath, then charged into the inner court as swift as the wind. The turbulent emotions inside of Wu Zhongkong gradually settled down as he continued kneeling on the ground, and a sense of peace washed over him. A cool breeze swept by, carrying the refreshing scent of nature that could only be found in Shrek Academy. The air of this place was humid and aromatic, perpetually bringing warmth and serenity to the people present. Finally, I'm back. After 13 years, today, I have returned. As he kneeled, Wu Zhongkong felt that everything was currently as it should be. 13 years ago, I was so impulsive and proud. Now I'm able to understand, but can I get back what was lost? I'm sorry, Binger. I'm sorry, teacher. It was all my fault. Binger, just wait for me. I will preserve your name with my battle armor. We will be together forever. As long as you desire it, I will not hesitate to sacrifice everything for you. Time ticked by slowly, yet also quickly at the same time. When Xinyi returned, Wu Zhongkong was already immersed in his own reminiscence. She approached Wu Zhongkong, face pale, and her hesitant footsteps came to a stop a short distance away. Moments later, she gathered up her courage and stepped in front of him. Teacher doesn't want to see you. Xinyi's voice wavered as the words left her mouth. Amen. Thank you, Wu Zhongkong replied softly, his tranquil attitude undisturbed. He continued to kneel as he had been doing. Hesitation showed in Xinyi's expression, but in the end, she spoke up. Teacher said, just let him kneel there. Wu Zhongkong lifted his head, trembling as he stared at Xinyi in astonishment. He was trembling because he understood that his teacher's fury was no reason to be terrified, but his teacher's disregard certainly was. As long as his teacher was angry with him, he still had a chance. Thank you, Xinyi. Wu Zhongkong bit his lips, as he continued to kneel, his back straighter than before. Just keep kneeling for now, senior brother, Xinyi said. You know what teacher is like. He spouts harsh words, but his heart is soft. When I told him that you had returned, I could see a trace of joy in his face for a split second. He couldn't hide it at all. He still cares deeply for you. After another round of persuasion, I'm sure he'll forgive you. Wu Zhongkong shook his head gently. I don't deserve teacher's forgiveness, but for the sake of my disciples, I implore you. Amen. Xinyi turned around and re-entered the inner court. Sun with rays. The sun is going to rise soon. Why hasn't teacher Wu come back yet? Xie paced around the room anxiously. After Wu Zhongkong left, he called them once to tell them he was handling business and that they should return to their rooms to avoid disturbing Tang Wulin's deep meditation. Instead, the three stayed in Wu Zhangkong's room and meditated while waiting for Tang Wulin to awaken. They had opened the door just a crack to take a peek at Tang Wulin, but Gu and Xu Xiaoyan faces turned crimson when they saw him soaking in the bathtub naked. Gu had immediately covered Xu Xiaoyan's eyes with her hands, leaving her own eyes wide open to take in the sight. A moment after that, Xie took the high road and peeled them away from the doorway, depriving both of them of the eye candy that was Tang Wulin. With Tang Wulin stuck meditating and Wu Zhongkong gone, Xie's heart was in a frenzy. Although he had resolved to stick with Tang Wulin, taking the entrance exam would still be the best outcome. They were currently 13 years old, and in another 3 years, they would be 16. They would be too old to take the Shrek Academy entrance exam by then. This was their only shot at entering Shrek Academy, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Gu, the calmest of the three, sat cross-legged in a chair. She had been thinking about something ever since she saw Tang Wulin soaking in the bathtub. "Let's just wait," Xu Xiaoyan said meekly. "Xie, can you stop walking in circles? We've already made our choice. If we don't end up taking the exam, we'll just treat this trip as a holiday and nothing more. In any case, we're on vacation right now. Once Captain wakes up, we can go sightseeing at Shrek Academy. At the very least, we can have him treat us to dinner. I bet his cheeks will be sore considering how stingy he is." She giggled at the thought. Xie made a strange expression because he knew it was true. Aside from the bare necessities, Tang Wulin hadn't paid for anything else. All of his money went into his savings. He rarely went out to eat because the price to fill his stomach was simply too steep. As the sky slowly began to brighten, Xie's impatience disappeared. He knew that it would be too late even if Tang Wulin awoke at that very moment. Time waited for no one. Their inn was quite far from Shrek Academy, and the exam would start in 1 hour. Even if they left right then and there, they still wouldn't make it in time. If they missed it, they missed it. Although they would have some regrets, all of them had decided on this, valuing their comrades more than Shrek Academy. Gu's eyes shot open, her gaze directed at Xie. "I'll stop mocking you in the future." Her sudden statement had Xie at a loss for words. "What do you mean?" Xie eyed her with suspicion. Gu said, "I guess you can be considered a male." His voice held a flurry of annoyance. "Are you saying you treated me like I was a girl before?" Gu giggled, a glint to her eyes. "You can take it however you want." Then, Xu Xiaoyan approached Xie and latched onto his arm. "So we're actually a group of sisters. I wouldn't have known if Big Sis Gu didn't tell me." He rolled his eyes in exasperation, lips pinched as he wrested his arm free. "You girls are always bullying me. I bet you don't have what it takes to mess with Wulin." "Oh, whatever. I'm hungry now. You two guard him while I get some breakfast. Do you want me to bring anything back?" Gu nodded. "I want meat, steamed buns, juice, and yogurt. Oh right, some vegetables too." Xu Xiaoyan counted on her fingers as she said, "I want some bread, jam, yogurt, and a fried egg. Actually, make that too. Yeah, I'm still growing after all." Xie said, "Yeah, growing as round as a fried egg." He knew enough to run off after his snarky comment, escaping before Xu Xiaoyan had the chance to erupt. Not long after his getaway, there was a knock on the door. "He's back so quickly," Xu Xiaoyan mumbled as she walked to the door. However, when she opened the door, the person outside was the white-haired lady from yesterday rather than her teammate. "Oh, it's you. Auntie, where's Teacher Wu?" Xu Xiaoyan asked. Shunyi entered the room. "Your teacher is fine. He's just taking care of some matters for you all at the academy right now. Has your captain awakened yet?" Xu Xiaoyan shook her head. "Not yet." A sigh escaped Shunyi's lips. "Then all we can do is wait. When he's conscious, I'll bring you all over." Confused, Xu Xiaoyan asked, "You're bringing us over? But it's already too late." Shunyi wore a faint smile as she tousled Xu Xiaoyan's hair, the same way Wu Zhongkong had done with hers the day before. "Don't worry about it. Your teacher has already settled things. Your tests might be a bit harder, but you still have one last chance. We'll depart once your captain is awake. Really? That's awesome. Teacher Wu is the best. Xu Xiaoyan bounced with joy. Although they had sacrificed the test for Tang Wulin, having both was still the best. Missing this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity would have been a tragedy. Ji Yu stared at Shen Yi in surprise. She hadn't expected a second chance, and it was as if a heavy mountain had been lifted off of her. Sun with rays. In the washroom, Tang Wulin remained soaking in the bathtub. The water had lost some of its heat, but was still lukewarm. Golden mist gathered in the air, shrouding his body in a radiant haze. Have I succeeded? Inside of his spiritual world, Tang Wulin found himself in the mystical hall once more. Compared to the first seal, the second one was much easier to break. After the initial sensation of being boiled alive, he grew accustomed to the pain, feeling his blood rampage through his body as the latter transformed. From then on, the process was painless. Later, a mysterious sensation filled him. Just like the first time, his senses had dulled to the point where comprehending the situation was fruitless. The only thing he could make out was the shattering of something within his body, the jaws of danger closing in on him. During the breaking of the first seal, he had endured unspeakable pain, as if his entire body was on the brink of explosion, so much so that death would have been a sweet release. This time, however, things were different. While he had felt something fill his body, he did not feel like bursting at the seams. Any semblance of pain had been a hollow image of itself. That's right, you've succeeded. Old Tang said, chock-full of satisfaction. Old Tang appeared near him in a flash of light, his body clearer and more human-like than before. Old Tang smiled. How do you feel? Tang Wulin said, good. It wasn't as painful as the first time. Old Tang said, that's because you're more prepared this time. Both your body and soul power have made remarkable progress in the last 3 years, especially since your soul power is compressed by your new cultivation method. It has refined your meridians and increased the load that they can bear. You also found high-quality spirit items this time. All of these factors eased the process. Tang Wulin rejoiced, that's great. I didn't waste my time then. Old Tang, what changed with my body this time? I remember back then you said there would be a nice surprise for me. That's right, there's a surprise, Old Tang said. But you need to go experience it for yourself. I suggest you don't worry about it for now and instead focus on breaking the third seal in the near future. Tang Wulin laughed. Isn't the deadline when I'm 20? I still have 6 years until then. That's plenty of time to prepare. Old Tang seemed to arch a brow. Who said the deadline is 20 years old for the third seal? Tang Wulin stared back deadpan. But isn't it? The deadline should be 5 years apart, and I've broken the second seal 1 year early. 5 plus 15 is 20 years old. Old Tang shook his head. No, that's not how it's calculated. Your next seal needs to be broken by the time you turn 16. In other words, you have 3 years left. 15 years old was the absolute latest for the second seal, and the earlier you break a seal, the easier the later seals are. The countdown for the next seal to be broken starts immediately after you've breaking the previous one. So, you have 3 years to prepare. Tang Wulin stood dumbfounded. Are you telling me the time between seals is going to continue shrinking? Old Tang said, that's right. It shortens each time. You'll be under a lot of pressure from now on. This shocking revelation wiped the smile right off of Tang Wulin's face. If the time shortens after each seal and there are 18 seals, then just how much time will I have for the later ones? And if I fail to destroy a seal, I'll probably die. What is the minimum amount of time I will have to break a seal in the future? Old Tang said, your preparation time will shorten by 3 months each time. After the 9th seal, you will only have 1 year to prepare for each. Tang Wulin let out a long sigh. 1 year per seal after the 9th seal? Can I manage that? He may have broken 2 seals already, but only now did he realize how menacing they were. I'll tell you what you need for your next seal. But before that, let me remind you that the more your body and soul power progress in the next 3 years, the easier the unsealing. You will face a tribulation if you're not prepared, and you might even. Tang Wulin nodded in silence. He understood what old Tang implied. Several spirit items popped into his mind. He first checked their prefixes, and was relieved to discover that they were 1,000-year spirit items. If they were 10,000-year items, he would have just given up right then and there. This video will end here.